Feeling drained, detached, or like you're running on fumes, you are not alone. But here's the truth: burnout isn't inevitable. In this episode, we explore how compassion, not just for others, but for yourself, can be your strongest line of defense against burnout in the field of ABA. Hi, I'm Shira.
And I'm Shayna. We're behavior analysts who create weekly content about how to teach children with autism so that they make real progress. And we create shareable resources to make your job just a little easier. Today's topic is all about BCBA burnout. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new video releases.
So I really like my job, but sometimes I come home after a long day and, I'll complain or I'll be frustrated with something that happened at work. And, my husband's response used to be, well, just get a new job. And it would frustrate me even more because that's not what I wanted. Like, I don't want a new job. And over time, I would tell him, no, I just want you to say, wow, that sounds like a really hard day. How can I make it easier for you? And just wanted like that compassion, somebody who could be like, identify, support, empathize. And that would really help me be like, oh, yeah, it is hard, but you know what? I do like it. And I still want to go back tomorrow.
I just had a total aha moment when you were talking about that. My husband is always drained from work and he complains all the time. And I think I just need to say, yeah, I feel for you. That sounds really hard.
You need to empathize.
I do need to
Yeah.
empathize more. I would say
Yeah.
so for sure.
So recently, I actually, had a post on Instagram where we were talking about what do the best BCBAs all have in common, and we were talking about, desire for learning and always wanting to grow, those kind of things. And somebody commented that, all are overworked. And that is kind of a theme in our field where unfortunately burnout is very common. But you know what? It really doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to feel burnt out just because we're BCBAs. So, what really is burnout? We're going to discuss, and how can we prevent it?
I guess let's first talk about psychological syndrome.
Yeah. So, how to define burnout? We took this definition from an article written by Slowiak and DeLongchamp. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. The article is all about self-care strategies, job crafting practices among behavior analysts. And it talks a lot about what burnout is, what it really means to have self-care and a work-life balance. And they define burnout as a psychological syndrome that's characterized in the workplace by disengagement. So disengagement is, you're detached from work, you don't identify with that organization, there's increased turnover, you really want to leave, and also exhaustion. So you're always tired, lack of mental and physical energy. Work doesn't energize you anymore. And that burnout is really a result from like prolonged, intensive physical, affective, and mental strains to particular job demands. So there is a component of burnout that comes up when there are high job demands, but it doesn't have to be that way.
It's hard because I think we've all experienced burnout in some factor of our life, or one time or another. The way burnout's being talked about is like, oh, just burnout is all the time now. And it's not. It can be, I'm burnt out this morning because of this particular client, but this afternoon was amazing. Or it could be, like this season is particularly busy for me because I'm going to work, but then I've got X, Y, and Z in my personal life and I have to do this as well. So it gets busy at certain times and other times it's not. So I don't want to talk about burnout like we're just always burnt out all the time, but it can happen. And so when it happens, there are some things we can do about it. And I think the very first thing is recognition and being able to step back. And I know that's really hard in the moment, but being able to step back in the moment and go, okay, I've lost my joy. Like my joy is gone in this instant, in this hour. Why? And am I burnt out? Am I close to burnout? And how do I get that back?
Right, burnout is really a signal, right? It's telling you that the demands are overwhelming my available resources. And those demands could be job demands, it could be life, personal. It's almost like your cup is too full, you can't hold anymore. So what do you do? How do you make more room in that cup? How do you get a bigger cup? What do you do to control for that? Really interestingly, in the article that I mentioned earlier, a very high number, about 72%, of ABA practitioners reported feeling medium to high levels of burnout. And so it is something that we feel very often. But again, it's a signal. Now, what can we do? There are things that we can do about it. And what are the things that we do have in our control to help us with burnout?
So Slowiak and DeLongchamp talk about a few things, you know, no, number one being job crafting and number two being self-care. And job crafting is things like looking at your job and your job responsibilities and changing them. Okay, so if there's anything I can decrease, if there's anything I can increase, can I change my role a little bit? What can I do there? And self-care is not going to the spa. You know, I think, oh, self-care, okay, that means, you know, going to the spa and taking some time off. Actually, self-care can be some, you know, personal self-care, but self-care can also be some professional self-care, meaning getting support. So finding a mentor, getting support, even just somebody to talk to within your organization. It can be some kind of professional development, whether you're going to some courses or whether you can say, well, I'm really not comfortable in these situations, so I need some professional development around that. Like I said, you know, some personal things can be things like work-life balance, but also looking at your daily balance and just being cognitively aware that you are on this brink of having your cup a little bit too full and seeing what you can do about it.
And that's really why we even, created the community, the BX Resource community, is because by giving other BCBA support and professional development, we're really trying to help others in the field not feel so alone and burnt out. Well, we can't send you to the spa. We can give you really good CEUs and mentorship opportunities.
I think it's really hard because, you know, when we talk about burnout, we talk about our jobs and being burnt out from that. I have to say, I'm the first person, I'm the last, but I love my job. I really do. I always have loved my job. I've been burnt out in the past. I'm not burnt out at this exact moment, but I have been burnt out in the past. And that feeling can come, it can go, it can be overwhelming at times, but I don't know if I'm necessarily always burnt out from my job. I was telling Shira before this episode, sometimes I'm burnt out from my family life, and I actually like want to throw myself into work because I'd rather be working than doing my job. And that might make me a bad person sometimes, but I think we all need to admit that to ourselves as well, that, you know, it's okay to be burnt out from your personal life as well.
Definitely. If you're not sure if you're burnt out, you can go check out the article we mentioned. It also has some really great assessments and tools that you could do to measure your level of burnout, your level of self-care, whether you're at risk for being burnt out. And we may be able to handle different levels of stress at different times in our lives. And how do we know? How do we know that we're at risk? How do we know that we're burnt out? How do we know when we're not just tired? Sometimes we go through phases where like we are tired, like, we're doing a lot, we're working hard. And the difference is that with burnout, it's like really like an emotional depletion. Like you're not motivated, you have no energy, you're irritable, you're impatient, you're even detached from the things that you once cared about. And if you can recognize those signs early, and then act early, then you can really be better set up for success. We have a whole nother episode on what BCBA burnout looks like. Go check that out. It's episode 86. It's really important to know what those signs are so that you can really intervene, get back aligned with your values, do things that you need to do to control for that is really important.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure, like I said, we've said this, you know, recognize it, recognize it, recognize it. I feel like we're getting tested for some kind of disease because it's like early detection is the best. But really, like we're looking for that. You know, we're trying to recognize that and get help. Hopefully, you've got somebody in the field to be able to talk to about it. If you don't, be compassionate to yourself. Like it's okay to feel this way, but it doesn't mean that you can give more of yourself, right? So like, yes, you have to be a compassionate BCBA. You have to be compassionate about, I'm burnt out, I'm going to give myself a break. But it doesn't mean that you completely detach and you can't give yourself a full break. But you also, like when you're compassionate towards other people, it also doesn't mean that you have to give all of yourself, right? Like you have to know your boundaries and you have to make sure that's sustainable over time.
Yeah, we say this a lot with the kids that we work with our own children. Sometimes setting limits is the kindest thing that you can do. And it's being compassionate. And a lot of us are at risk for this because we are in a field where we give to others. It doesn't mean giving more. It means that I can set a limit, and that's also the kindest thing that I can do. And so you have to be empathetic with yourself and kind and model those healthy boundaries, and be able to know how you best handle other people's stress, what you need to do. We also need to always come back to what our values are. We know we often use something like the ACT values matrix for our learners, for the parents that we work with, but we should be always using it on ourselves. Like, why am I working so hard? What is it that I love about this? And remembering what those values are for you will really help you, tolerate the discomfort. That's ACT. Do I really want to be stressed and frustrated? Oh, yeah, I do, because you know what? I really value helping people. And so really being able to tap into your values and remembering that and revisiting it.
And sometimes just by doing a simple exercise like that, you can also, it helps you find the joy in what you're doing. So, for instance, like as I become, a more seasoned BCBA, I was going to say older, but I don't want to classify myself as that quite yet. But, as you become a more seasoned BCBA, you seem to be getting into more admin roles, and it just seems to happen, right? More admin, more admin, more admin. I did an ACT values matrix not too long ago for myself, and I realized like what I'm most compassionate about in this field is working with others. I love working with a team of RBTs, but I also love working with students directly, like just with learners, and I love it. And I actually, found my joy, and I got myself. I am now working directly one-to-one with a really young learner. He's under the age of 2, and it brings me so much joy. And I was able to squeeze that into my schedule. I didn't have time to squeeze it into my schedule. It's the best thing I ever did because that's what is aligned with my values and that's what brings me joy. And believe it or not, adding one more thing to my plate actually helped me with burnout.
Right. Burnout is not managing burnout doesn't mean doing less. It means doing more of the things that you love and the things that bring you joy. And if you're the one managing other people and you want to make sure that other people, the people who you're managing aren't going to become burnt out, one of the things that we recommend is doing an ACT values matrix with them. There's another article that's called Improving Performance in Organizations with Applied Contextual Behavior Science. We'll link that below. But it provides what's called a mindful action plan or a map for employees. And you could do that with the people who you work with to help them get in touch with the things that they really want to be doing more of. You can help them work through that, help them also becoming engaged with their work, because the more that you can be engaged in the work that you do, that is a protective factor against burnout. If you're loving what you do, if you're feeling supported, if you're getting good training, if you're interested in professional development, these are all things that we can do to protect ourselves and our employees from burnout.
And I think just building engagement within the workplace about this, talking about it, making it part of the culture that, we all recognize it. It's okay, but it's not an excuse. We can't use burnout as an excuse to do less, right? So what do we need to do? We need to recognize it. We need to find a friend, call a friend, but also have self-kindness, mindfulness that it's happening, and acceptance, right? I mean, I think that is our best buffer against stress if we can start having these open conversations. And then being able to set those boundaries and realize that's not selfish. It's being professional, getting a schedule, seeing if you can follow that schedule. Imagine I say that for ABA clients, just give them a schedule and follow the schedule. Imagine if we could just do that ourselves.
And like we said, like burnout is going to disconnect you from your why. So reconnecting to your work and your values will really help you rediscover that purpose and move from just like really surviving to thriving. We have mentioned that the ACT planner, the ACT committed actions matrix, and we're offering a free one here. So go and check that out.
For more information on BCBA burnout, click the link on or around this video or in the description to claim your free ACT Committed Actions Planner. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos, and leave a like and comment below if you have further questions.